Hello and welcome to part 1 of my Malta Speedbuild Series, where I'm going to give you not just one, but 2 battle arenas. Now here's a quick overview of what's next to come. And I marked for what I'm going to build, which is unfortunately the only planning that went into this build. Unlike this audio recording, because this time you won't find me stumbling upon words because I don't know what I'm talking about, because this time I made notes. Anyhow, the lack of planning for this build started to kick me in the butt as soon as I started building, so I suggest you watch carefully what I'm doing here, because I made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. Just a neat little service on my part for you. Oh, and by the way, if you want to witness the biggest mistake ever made in the history of all Jurassic Parks, stay tuned right until the end. It's a hoot. But back to business. We're here to build battle arenas. So I went through the trouble of recording the basic building of both arenas, because what I did the first time around was not thought out at all and took forever. So you're going to see a mix of 2 recordings, and I'm going to provide a few tips along the building process. Which leads me to my first tip. Really, it's simple but crucial. Think before building. I didn't, and I hate myself for it. Now I'm starting with the main arena, with its surrounding guest and backstage areas, and it is an arena that is sunk into the ground, so the guests have a nice elevated view. And I wanted the walls of the arena to be concrete, so I placed a circle of grey path between the 2 fences, but you don't have to. You can paint them with stone texture or however you like. But if you are of the same look as I was, here's my second tip: use a guide. I didn't, and it took me ages to build the perfectly fitting path circle thingy. So here's how you do it. First, use the terrain paint to mark for the center, and then start with a circle of invisible fence, which is going to be the fighting ground area thing. By using the little dot you painted as your starting point. Then build a second circle of concrete fence for the outer perimeter. And the easiest way of doing this is, of course, to extend the inner fence diameter, as I do here, so your 2 circles are perfectly centered. Once this is done, delete the straight fences and some of the invisible fence, so you can use the marked center again, but this time for the path. It takes a few tries, but it's still much easier than fiddling around until you find the perfect circumference, which is what I did, like an idiot. Think before building, people. So once you put up the perfect circle, rebuild the inner fence and fill the gaps with path. Et voila! You end up with 3 perfectly concentric circles, which form the base for our battle arena. Wow! And here's tip number 3. Build your fences and path first, raise the terrain later. I didn't, again, which is why I went back and forth, changing the elevation levels, which was good for absolutely nothing. And to make the raising of the terrain even easier for you, so you don't end up going crazy while trying to keep the middle flat and the surrounding terrain evenly raised, I proudly present tip 4. Use boxes to secure the battleground. Granted, it takes some patience, but I kept myself above water while placing these by constantly reminding myself that I did this for the greater good, to stay mentally sane and also to achieve a much better looking result than I could have using the terrain tools only. because once all the boxes are placed, you can raise the surrounding terrain to a perfect circle and then smooth out the ridges, delete the boxes, and voila! You end up with the most beautiful sunken down battle arena. Now, all that's left to do is to extend a few areas where we are going to put our viewing galleries, and that's our first arena finished. You can, of course, as I did, add a hatchery to it, which serves the purpose of an entry for our contestants. The lore here is that people bring their dinosaurs into this building before the battle so they can have an appropriately epic entrance. Speaking of lore, let me tell you a little something about this place while you're watching me build the backstage stables and the front stage. Is that a word? Guest area? So, of course, this is inspired by Jurassic World Dominion. Now that I've finally watched it, the idea for this instantly popped into my head, but I thought my Malta had to be more than just a black market. I wanted it to be some sort of low-life colony, a city, much like Arkham City, or the one where John Wick goes to in the third or fourth movie, I have no idea. Anyhow, a city built and governed by criminals who make their living off illegal dinosaur trading and stuff like that. So, of course, it has to have a black market at its center. And I thought of maybe slums because I figure not all criminals are super rich and famous. Some, or maybe even most of them, are petty thieves and smugglers who chose this secluded secret society as a home base. I want that to be different classes of criminals. There absolutely has to be a big bad who has their fingers in pretty much everything and is sort of the king or queen of the city, which, by the way, needs a name, so I'm open to suggestions. The city, I mean, not the big bad. The big bad also, so feel free. Now, the big bad has tons of people working for them, and it's kind of the goal of everyone living in the slums to get hired and getting a foot on the ladder of success. Then, of course, we need ways to reach the city, so I thought of an airport for the wealthy folks and docks for basically everybody else, which is one of the reasons I chose this map, even though I'm not a huge fan of this biome. But still, I wanted something tropical because I felt like this sort of place needed a hot and sweaty environment. I'm not sure why there is no real reason to it. Maybe it's just the actual heat here that led to this decision. Anyhow, I needed at least some sort of connection to water for the docks, so I chose this map. Although in hindsight, I guess I just could have created a river myself. And now that I'm saying this, I kind of want to rebuild the whole thing. Foreshadowing. Which is why I'm not getting tired of repeating myself. Think before building. Please do yourself a favor. Don't be as I am. Now, you will see me place a ton of decorations because I feel a place like this needs to look untidy and cluttered with greeblies and deedlies, but also because I want to find out if this mythical piece count everyone's talking about actually exists, because I have never encountered it and it's just like this urban myth to me. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit something about the stables I'm building here. Now, I don't know if anyone of you has ever been to horse races or obstacle courses, like really professional ones with 5 stars and really famous horses. But thankfully, I am a horse person, so I know a little bit how all this looks behind the scenes. And I know that the really expensive horses and high-class tournaments have backstage stables where the contestants arrive a few days early and bring their horses so they can adjust to the environment and not be as nervous. So I pretty much just took this information I had as inspiration for my backstage area here and built a few paddocks and added tons of the DFW decorations as to pretend that those are the camping grounds of the different teams that bring their dinosaurs, and added again tons of greeblies because I feel they need a lot of equipment to keep the dinosaurs in check. And I built a few campsites and stuff. And of course, I feel this battle arena has to be at least organized a little bit. So I added a response facility, which is supposed to be the security infrastructure installed there by our big bad. Of course, there needs to be also a little bit of guest stuff for the people who bought expensive entry tickets, or I don't know, maybe the entry is free. I have no idea how this works. I am not a dogfight person. I have knowledge missing there. And I figured they want to have some places to eat and to drink. And I also built shops because I think this is maybe the place where they can place their bets on the different dinosaurs. And backstage, I had to add a few buildings that people would actually go to, so it looks not completely empty once I open this park. So this is the idea behind this backstage area. But let's head on to building the second, much smaller, but not less awesome arena, which I call the Thunderdome for an unexplicable reason. It's basically an aviary surrounded by viewing galleries. And if you know where exactly to put the hatchery so you can release Changjusaurus and Ceratosaurus into it, you don't need 300 tries like I did, but only one, because that's all it takes. So here's my tip number 5. Pick the hatchery with the smallest hitbox and place it as I am doing here, and you will be fine. Because, and this is tip number 6, breed all 4 dinosaurs, because only one will make a run for it and into the aviary. And this is only going to happen if you release at least 3 of them. Although I only tested 1, 2, and 4, so I don't know if 3 would actually do the trick. So to be safe, just breed all 4 of them, catch the last 3 and sell them or keep them as I did. So here we go. Smaller but equally epic battle arena finished. I have to say I really like it. I should have built more of those. I still can, maybe I will, I don't know. But now, anyways, it's on to decorating, and after that, to some glamour shots. And since it took me so many tries to get my Ceratosauruses into the aviary, I had a few leftovers, but thought it was a shame to sell them all. So I kept them there, and it was kind of a happy accident.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Because I decided that maybe this is a strictly Ceratosaurus versus Changjusaurus battle arena, and the rest of them are spares. So the following contestants, once one of them died, and built this cute little paddock where they are awaiting their doom. And also, of course, this arena also needs a little guest section. And because I like my guests to be able to look into the exhibits, quote unquote, I made the biggest mistake I ever made, which I promised to show you. So please sit back and witness stupidity and tragedy unfold. Have fun, and until next time, bye.